Following applications at the time or as soon thereafter they may be reached, such time all interested parties will be given an opportunity to be heard. Dated July 9th, 2021, John M. Lorenzo, Chairman. Mr. Chairman, our first application tonight is number 416-21, Michael Dina Inzerillo, to renew permit for family use only, residence AA district, west side of Woodbury Road, number 162, 193.38 feet north of Jane Road, Hopog. Is there anyone here for the applicant? Please step up to the podium, please. Your name and address for the record.
My pleasure. Michael Tina is number 162 Woodbury Road in Hopog.
You just got to say a little bit louder. We have terrible acoustics in this wonderful environment.
Michael
605.
Tina is 162 Woodbury Road in Hopog.
Great. How are you guys tonight?
Good.
Good. You hear renew permit family use only.
Yeah.
Second renew, it looks like, based on age.
Yes.
Mother lives with you, right?
Yes.
Everything seems to be in order. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan, take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, we grant the application for 3 years.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted, C in 3 years.
Thank you.
The next application, number 417-21, Raymond J. and Vivian Gordon, to renew hearing permit for family use only, residence B district, north side of Hunter Avenue, number 493, 100.08 feet east of Toomey Road, West Islip. The name and address for the record, please, sir.
Raymond Gordon, 193 Hunter Avenue, West Islip.
How are you tonight?
Okay.
Good. Seeking permission to renew permit to family use since 1977 at 75. Criteria is based on age. Everything still the same?
Yes.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Bucks, I'll take a motion.
Thank you. I'll make a motion that we grant the application for a period of 3 years.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Application granted, C in 3 years.
Next application, number 418-21, Michael and Gail Marchese. Permission to renew permit for family use only, residence A district, north side of North Windsor Avenue, number 1380, 270 feet north of Huron Drive, Bay Shore, New York. Name and address, please, for the record.
Hello, Dana Bruno, 78 Reference Street, Bay Shore, New York, 2706. I'm the niece of Michael and Gail. My uncle's on oxygen, so I'm here just right now.
Okay. Family use only since 76. Based on age, I guess Michael is.
My uncle?
You don't know. What's that? Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application for a period of 3 years.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted, C in 3 years.
Thank you.
The next application was adjourned from July 6, 2021. Number 393-21, Michael J. and Tiffany R. Berrajari. Permission to leave patio having a side yard of 2.5 feet instead of the required 4 feet. Residence B district, north side of Palmanok Avenue, number 331, 416.38 feet west of Higby Lane, West Islip, New York. Name and address for the record, please, sir.
Michael Ferrajari, 331 Conrock Avenue, West Islip, 1795.
How are you today?
Good.
You adjourned last time for any certain reason?
On my letter, it said that there was also Zoom. I was away, so I called and said that, I was Zoom and Zoom as well, but it wasn't.
Perfect, understood. Yeah,
Isn't this better?
This is easier.
it's much easier.
If I wasn't away last time, I could have paid.
Right, so we seek permission for a patio, side yard 2.5 instead of 4. We see that a lot. Call that de minimis, it's ground level, right?
Yes, it's more of like an extended driveway, but I guess they call it a patio. It was there before I even did that.
Sure. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wicks, I'll take a motion.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
Second.
All in favor? Application granted.
Thank you all very much.
Next application, number 396-21, Vincent T. and Danielle Iacopelli. Permission to leave driveway having a side yard of 0.9 feet instead of the required 4 feet. Residence B district, north side of Roderick Road, number 65, 230 feet east of Pine Avenue, West Islip, New York. Name and address, please, ma'am and sir.
Danielle Vincent Iacopelli, 65 Roberts Road, West Islip, New York, 1795.
How are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good. Driveway a little too close, seems to be de minimis. It's a small portion of your side property line to your house. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we grant the application, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second that fine motion, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor? Application granted.
Thank you.
Next application, 419-21, Garrett Woodmayer, permission to establish two-family family use only pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68-419.1, Residence AA District 278 Cluster, east side of Thunder Road, number 150, 105 feet south of Omni Lane, Holbrook, New York. Name and address, please. And sir.
That's available, yeah.
Let her do the talking for you, sir.
My business is Document Acquisition Services, and my offices are located in San Diego. I am with the landowner, my client, Garrett.
Very good.
Garrett Whitmire, 150 Thunder Road, Holbrook.
All right, how are you guys tonight?
Excellent, thank you. It's very nice to be here in person.
Yes.
Yes, it is, it really.
So you're here seeking permission to establish two-family families only. Age is the criteria.
Age is the criteria. Garrett's mom is over 70.
Driveway, everything else looks like it's in order right now.
Yes, sir.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Messina, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we grant the application for a period.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Have a very
Have a good
nice.
evening,
You
everyone.
too, nice to see you again.
Next application, number 420-21, Mercedes Rios. For the record, not my sister. Permission to leave one-story addition 12.1 feet by 14.4 feet, having a rear yard of 24.4 feet instead of the required 25 feet, Residence A District, southwest corner of Ferndale Boulevard, number 830 in Peach Street, Central Islip, New York. Name and address, please, for the record.
I'm Hilda Rios, I'm representing my mother, Mercedes Rios, 830 Ferndale Boulevard, Central Islip, New York, 11722.
How are you today?
Good in here.
You have a one-story addition that's, your mom has a one-story addition that's kind of bit too close, 24.4 instead of 25.
Correct.
Seems to be de minimis to me. See what everyone else thinks. Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. You have a great night.
Thank you, have a nice evening.
You too. Next application is 421-21, Denise and Bernard Smallwood Jr. Permission to leave a pool deck having a side yard of 7.7 feet instead of required 10 feet. Residence B District, west side of Locust Avenue, number 56, and 543.8 feet north of Main Street, Islip, New York. Name and address, please, sir.
Bernard Smallwood, 56 Locust Avenue, in Islip.
How are you?
175. Fine.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, I apologize.
No problem.
So you have a pool deck, 7.7 instead of 10. How long has it been there?
Prior to our buying house, we're back in 2000.
What we normally do on stuff like this, obviously we have to have a board vote, but if the pool or the pool would have to, any changes to it, you'd have to comply with the pool deck on it. So any changes to the pool, we'd have to either move it or put a new one in, you'd have to comply with it. So we'll do for life in the pool slash deck.
Now, are you suggesting that I have to take off two and?
No, I'm saying if you have to move it above that pool for any reason, you'd have to comply with the pool.
Oh.
Well, you have to lower the water 2 feet. Or
If
replace the pool.
If I remove the pool.
Well, replace
Or
it.
replace it.
At some point,
Or replace it.
trust me, I'll flatten that out and run it out.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wexler, I'll take a motion.
Thank you. I'll make a motion that we grant the application for the life of the pool. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Next application, number 422-21, Scott R. Witt and Marie Spano. Permission to leave roof over entry platform having a front yard of 17.5 feet instead of the permitted encroachment setback of 20 feet. Residence B District, north side of South Montauk Avenue, number 23, 237.77 feet west of Park Place, East Islip, New York. Name and address, please, for the record, sir.
Scott Witt, 23 Montauk Avenue, East Islip.
How are you tonight?
Very well, thanks. Yourself?
So you have a roofed over entry platform a little too close, 17.5 instead of 20. Deidre, any objection or complaint?
No objections.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Rex, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application.
This application number 423-21, Rodolfo Alvarez, Sandra Marquez de Alvarez, Gerson Castro Anaya. Permission to erect roof over porch and roof over second-story deck resulting in floor area ratio of 36.9% instead of the permitted 25%, to establish accessory apartment pursuant to ISO Town Code Section 68-602, and to leave a driveway having a front yard occupancy of 40% instead of permitted 35%, Residence District East Side, Orchard Lane, 27, 400 feet south of Francisco Avenue, Central Islip, New York. Name and address, please, for the record. Welcome.
Good evening, Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting with offices at 1040 Terry Road, Montauk, New York.
How are you tonight?
Very nice to be here in person.
Yes.
You all.
Thank goodness.
So we're here to establish an accessory apartment. It is owner occupied. The apartment is 751 square feet. And we're also here for the driveway because it has a front yard occupancy of 40% instead of the permitted 35%. And also for the FAR. So the proposed roof over the front porch only adds 1.5% to the FAR. And the deck, because there's going to be a roof over to it, zoning had us counted twice. So the deck itself is 7.5, but because of the roof over, we had to count it twice, bringing it to the 36.9%.
So if we didn't count it twice, it would be
It would be around
Under
30. Yeah.
under 30.
What has been our policy, Mr. Chairman? I don't know about double counting. Do we have an escape valve for that?
The underneath the
Yeah, didn't we used to use the
raindrop
raindrop?
theory, yeah, right?
Raindrop theory. You get it only if you make the application when it's raining. So, sorry.
Now, it's underneath the deck is not going to be enclosed. It's going to be
No,
open.
I did speak to them about putting a condition never to be enclosed, and they are okay with that.
Yeah. Deidre, from planning, any objection?
As long as it's never to be enclosed, no objection.
Underneath or the whole thing?
The whole thing adds 14%.
Sure.
That's pretty substantial.
Okay, so never to be enclosed? Okay. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Oh, wait, hold on, we also have a accessory apartment, everything's in order, right?
Everything's in order, it's 751 square feet, and engineering has stated that the driveway complies. It's just that it's slightly over in lot.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicolia, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application and grant that portion of the application related to the accessory apartment for a period of 3 years.
Subject never to be enclosed, top and bottom.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next application number 424-21, Farida Yasmin and Mosameth F. Jahan. Permission to establish an accessory apartment pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68-602 on a lot having a width of 72 feet instead of the required 75 feet, Residence District, south side of Fitchburg Street, 4, 203 feet west of Boston Avenue, Bay Shore, New York. Is there anyone here for the application?
Good evening again, Roxanne Trella.
Watch out behind you, Ms. Trella, there's a crowd.
They're academic because it's not raining. Dynamic Expediting with offices at 1040 Terry Road, Montauk, New York.
Yeah, we need to,
Good, thank you. Here again to establish an accessory apartment. It is owner occupied. Engineering has approved the driveway and the apartment is 705 square feet. And we are also here for the lot width of the property at 72 feet instead of the required 75.
great. Deidre, from planning, any objection to the lot width?
No objections. There's 3 other houses right within, I think, they're within 200 feet that are 70 feet wide and 65 feet wide.
Everything else complies on the accessory apartments. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Jet, to be heard, come on up. How are you today? Just name and address for the record, please.
Patricia Campo, 108 Pittsburgh, patient.
How are you today?
I'm good, how are you?
Good. You can just pull the microphone towards us so we can hear you because we have terrible acoustics.
Okay, I live right next door to this premises. I just have a couple questions about it. Is this going to be a mother-daughter apartment, or just a plain old apartment, or rooms to rent?
Well, the accessory apartment, the code for ISLA, to establish accessory apartment, it has to be under a certain square footage, which it meets. The driveway has to comply, which it does, and it has to be owner occupied. So the owner has to live in the
That was
private.
my question too. It has to be owner occupied.
Yes,
Now, the downstairs, it's high range. The downstairs, does that need to be rented to family, or to be rented to anybody?
the owner can rent to anyone.
To anyone?
Yeah.
Can you tell me how many bedrooms it's going to have?
I don't know that. That's, we don't look at it as better. The square footage of the apartment is all that we go by here with the zoning board. I'm sure that if it doesn't comply bedroom wise, the inspectors are not gonna let it, if there's too many bedrooms that are not legal,
The code allows a maximum of 2.
there we go.
Right, and that's not something we can vary from, so we don't hear it.
How would so it's going to be no more than 2?
That's what the code allows.
That's what the code, that's what the code.
And we don't hear that because we don't.
How would I find that out?
Excuse me?
How would I find out what the code said?
Well, Mary, who is 40 years of planning knowledge, just
Okay,
said
okay.
that, and she's pretty right.
Okay, so
She is
no more than
for all
2.
intents and purposes.
Are there 2 apartments on the floor plan, Roxanne? 2
bedrooms.
bedrooms, sorry, 2
Yeah,
bedrooms.
the apartment is in each bedroom.
Okay. So anybody can rent it. I think that was my question.
And in all the town of Islip, if you comply and you comply with the code for accessory apartment, if you meet all the criteria, you can have an accessory apartment.
Now, what if upstairs moves out and they rent that out?
It has to be owner occupied.
It
The house
has to be owner occupied.
Yeah.
And then what happens if that's reported? So,
You gotta report it, then if that's not, if they're not abiding by the code, you think you can call code enforcement, they'll come down and they'll check it all out.
Okay.
We're just here to hear what they have here in front of us for code. We would know if they're gonna comply, we hope they comply with, the rules, the laws. Once it's all over, that's what most people do.
all right. I think that's it then.
Okay.
Thank
Great
you.
night. Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Nicole, I will take.
Motion to grant the application for review in 3 years.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted.
Thank you, have a
Have
good
a great
night.
day.
Next application number 425-21, Beverly J. Burke, permission to erect a second-story addition, giving a floor area ratio of 28.9% instead of 25%, to establish two-family zoning pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68-419.1, and to leave a shed having a side yard of 0.9 feet and a rear yard of 0.5 feet instead of the required 2 feet each. Residence B, zoning district 278 cluster, south side of Sherwood Lane, number 8, 69.15 feet east of Glen Summer Road, Holbrook. Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Ali Devari, 4250 Veterans Highway, Suite 2040W, Holbrook, New York, 11741,
Could you just spell your last name?
Gavari.
How are you today?
I'm good. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. We have been hired by Beverly Burke to represent her at this hearing. Ms. Burke is the owner of the property at 8 Sherwood Lane, and it is her primary residence. The property is an interior lot, 88.38 feet by 113 feet and a half, with a total lot size of 10,000 square feet in the B residence zone. We are here seeking permission for several variances to convert a single-family home into a two-family use. We are also seeking permission to exceed the allowable floor area ratio in the setback to the existing shed. For our floor area ratio application, we are proposing to do a 617 square feet second floor addition extension over the portion of the existing first floor and partial dormer. The existing first floor is 1,297 square feet with a 244 square feet attached garage. The existing second floor is 735 square feet. We are proposing to have a total floor area of 2,893 square feet.
Sure, so it's up to 28.9%, the code says 25. We, as a board, just to let you know, not to rush you, we'd love to hear you, but we as a board always see it for 30.
Okay.
So you're right under the threshold for the floor area ratio. It appears that the shed is de minimis 0.9 instead of 0.5 instead of 2 feet each. We see them all the time. And I believe everything's in order for the two-family families only. It's based on medical, and everything else complies in the home. If you want to keep going, you're welcome, but I'm just kidding.
Stand to benefit by letting us take it from here.
I didn't mean to tell you, I don't want to be rude.
No.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application?
Yes, we do have the.
And Bailey? Hi.
Maybe I'll tell you. Does the board have any questions? Mr. Messina, I will take a motion.
Chairman, I move that we grant the application and with respect to that portion for the two-family use only for a period of 3 years. That's my motion.
And I second that motion.
In favor? Application granted, we'll see in 3 years, every third year you have to come back in and verify. Hopefully you have to come back in, maybe, but we won't have to.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Have a good night. Have a great night.
Next application, number 426-21. Christina Palmieri Motz and Christopher Motz. Permission to leave roofed over entry platform, having a front yard of 24.7 feet instead of the required 40 feet. To leave a driveway resulting in a front yard occupancy of 45.5% instead of the permitted 35%. Residential district outside Woodland Street, 59, 120 feet west of Laurel Street, East Islip. Name and address for the record, please.
Christina and Chris Moats, 59 Woodland Street, East Islip.
Forgive me for
It's
mispronouncing.
okay, it'll die.
How are you tonight?
Good, yourself?
Good. It seems you were before us this year.
Yeah, February.
February, then you're back.
Yeah,
So what happened?
the February one was to get the variance to build the second floor.
Right.
We got that granted, and then when we applied for the building permit, they had stated that we need permission to keep the second driveway, the front porch, all these things that I guess were missed in the February one.
So it's all your fault?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm struggling with it. Sorry about that, for the tax purposes. So roof dimension platform, 24.7 instead of 40. And driveway, 45.5 instead of 35. That's two separate driveways?
Yes.
Do you think they'll be rebuilt when you do your reconstruction?
We would like to. It all depends on at the end of it, how much money is left over. But we would like to finish them
We've
off.
just seen it a lot, that the second story goes up and then the new driveway gets built, and then they have to come back to us again for the driveway.
Well, those will be good for, that's 44%, but it's two separate driveways.
And you want to keep both of them?
We would
If we
like to,
can,
yeah.
yeah.
Did it for planning, any objection?
There's no precedent for anything higher home area. They usually bring it to 40, so they can cut down 5% and feel better about it. And the front yard, there's one precedent for a dormer extension, the front yard is 24.5, otherwise the next front yard is 32.6 or 34.6.
You never did close this front yard portico you put it in?
No, it's gonna stay open. Just have a roof on the sides.
Do you agree to never close it?
Yes, absolutely.
So we do have a precedent for right around that front yard. See, as the code says for the front yard occupancy of your driveways to address, we see the code's at 35, we have 45.5. We normally give up to 40%.
Okay.
So they would like to somehow get that down to 40% if you could. That would help.
How did that,
Well,
what
you
would
can,
be the recommended or the approved way to accomplish that?
so there are ways, maybe you can possibly make an appointment with planning, and so, and there are ways that you know, the walkways, sometimes they count the walkways, if you cut a portion of it out and it looks like it acts as a walkway, maybe that doesn't count in the front yard occupancy on that, is that something that you consider planning for?
Okay.
What we'd have to do is just grant you up to 40%, and how you guys get there is how you get.
Okay.
Is that okay? Well, that's what we have to do. All right?
Yeah, so we just have to go to planning
Yeah, you can give Deirdre a call. She'll sit with you and see where you guys can speak at the project. All right? Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr.
You definitely want to redo your driveway, I'm just saying.
Oh.
Yeah, no, that's, you can make the house very beautiful, so.
Yes. Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application with the condition that the portico in front that would be enclosed.
And deny.
Oh, and to deny that portion of the driveway, and instead grant 40%.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
You understand? Yeah. So give over planning over a call this week or next week, give me an appointment and they can figure out what you have to get done.
All right, one quick question again. The original variance that we got approved, the paperwork says it was good for 90 days for 1 year with new construction.
So is that considered the second story reconstruction, or they mean, you know?
It's new construction.
New construction.
Okay.
We'll bless it.
Have a good night.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Next application number 427-21, Robert M. and Megan E. Anderson. Ground pool having a rear yard 50 feet, 7.18 feet, pool equipment having a rear yard of 1.2 feet, 7.4 feet, and shed on side property line not having required setback of 2 feet. Residence AA District 278 cluster, west side of Park Lane, number 90, 195.77 feet south of Danos Drive, Salem, name and address, please, sir.
So Robert Anderson, Lady Hawk Lane and Salem. How are you today, sir? Good, how's everybody? Good. So you have a pool that's a little too close. A little too close to that one little area right there where it further out. Here, this survey. Yeah, so what happened was the pool builder, maybe incorrectly, thought that the water feature didn't need to comply with the setback, so the pool itself is set back 18 feet. But it's just the raised rock feature behind it that encroaches on that setback. Oh, I got it. So the pool itself is there? The pool itself is 18 feet, yes. Okay. Pool equipment 3 on 1, 2 instead of 4, and then shed. They'll have 2 feet. Yeah, the pool equipment, and I think we submitted a copy, an updated survey. The pool equipment is 2 feet off of the property line, which was allowed at the time we filed and permitted the pool. Yeah. But I believe that's changed since then. So it is actually 2 feet on the new survey. Yeah, it's just a minute. Yeah. Deirdre, any objection for planning?
No objections.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, move to grant the application.
All in favor?
Aye.
Case you grant that. Good. Great, thank you.
Next application, number 428-21. Calvosa Custom Homes Corp. Permission to subdivide a lot into 2 parcels. Lot 1, to erect a 2-story dwelling on a lot having a width of 96 feet instead of 100 feet, leaving driveway on the side and rear of the property lines instead of required 4 feet each. And lot 2, to erect a 2-story dwelling on a lot having a width of 25 feet instead of required 100 feet, driveway on side property line instead of required 4 feet, front yard occupancy of 50.87% instead of permitted 35%, residence level of district east side Florida Avenue number 77, 1,072.39 feet south of Carson Street, Bohemia, New York. Appearances for the record, please, and then after appearances, Mr. DiNicola, I have a question of you, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, appearing on behalf of the applicant, Eugene DiNicola, 200 Railroad Avenue, Salem, New York. I must say, it's certainly nice to be here in person.
Mr. DiNicola, before you start, in the interest of full disclosure, it appears from my review of records in the file that at one time I was the referee for the foreclosure on this particular parcel. I never had a property interest in the real property, as you know, I usually sold it as an agent in court. Do you have any objection?
You just speak up a little more. I'm having trouble hearing.
It's wonderful acoustics in here, right?
It's the third time in 30
I
more
understand what you
minutes.
said, go ahead.
Okay, so you got me so far?
Yes.
Okay, so in light of that, do you have any objection to me sitting on this?
You're acting as an officer of the court, you simply did a foreclosure carrying out an order of court. I do not see any conflict or any issue that would preclude you from being completely objective in this application.
Thank you, I just wanted to disclose that. Thank you for your patience.
Fine.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, appearing on behalf of the applicant, Eugene L. D. Nicola, 200 Railroad Avenue, Salem, New York. Mr. Chairman, at this time, I just want to make a note that the planning department referred to the establishment of a flag lot in their denial. That relief was listed in the application to the Board of Zoning Appeals. However, it was not specifically stated in the public notice. Public notice does, however, set forth the dimensions of the proposed subdivided lots. For housekeeping purposes, as I call it, I would respectfully move to have the notice amended to simply incorporate the words to establish a flag lot.
Chairman, I don't believe that's necessary, but there's no harm in it. Mr. Di Nicola is right, all the dimensions are called out, all the variances are called out. I have no objection unless any of my colleagues on the board.
I have an objection. Make a motion to amend and call a meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The applicant is requesting permission to subdivide a lot into two parcels for the purpose of erecting a single-family dwelling on each subdivided parcel of land. The proposed subdivision will require the variance relief set forth in the call of the meeting. The subject parcel is located in a residential area in the hamlet of Bohemia. The subject site has dwellings adjacent to the north, east, south, and across Locust Avenue to the west. The subject property is located on the east side of Locust Avenue and has a width on Locust Avenue of 121 feet to a depth of 426.65 feet, containing 51,625 square feet of area, or 1.18 acres. The subject property is in the residence AA zone, AA zone district, which has a density requirement of 20,000 square feet of plot area to permit the construction of a single-family dwelling, among other dimensional requirements. The subject property previously had existing thereon a single-family dwelling containing 1,500 square feet of gross floor area, which dwelling was erected in about 1938. There were also several sheds on the property. Subject property has since been cleared, and the dwelling and sheds have been demolished and removed from the premises. Now, the dwelling, which was on the premises, was unsound, could not be saved, and was infested with rodents. The applicant proposes to construct two new single-family dwellings on the two parcels to be created from the subdivision. Proposed lot 1 will have a frontage on Locust Avenue of 96 feet and a depth of 208.84 feet, containing 20,078 square feet of plot area. Proposed lot 2 will have a frontage on Locust Avenue of 25 feet and will contain 31,547 square feet, or 3/4 of an acre. And lot 2 will have a driveway access from Locust Avenue to the area of the parcel where the dwelling will be developed. The area of lot 2, which will be developed with the single-family dwelling, will have the dimensions of 120 feet in width to a depth of 217.81 feet, and contain an approximate plot area of 26,335 square feet, which of course excludes the driveway access area. Within that area, it will meet or exceed all dimensional setbacks for the residence AA district for front yard, rear yard, and side yards, both minimum and total. Lot 2 will meet the minimum frontage of 15 feet required by Town Law Section 280A, Subdivision 5, as the proposed parcel upon which the dwelling is to be erected, now we're talking about Lot 2, the back parcel, abuts and directly has access to an improved road. The access driveway from Lot 2 will allow ingress and egress for emergency vehicles, which pursuant to 280A shall be presumptively sufficient for that purpose based upon its width of 25 feet, whereas 15 feet is deemed appropriate in the town law. I draw the board's attention to the minor subdivision plan, which was prepared by Barrett Bonacci Van Weel. I have two, I hope you can see them. The light isn't that great here, the acoustics aren't that great, but we really try hard.
Don't encourage them, Mr.
I have two plans to the board, if they can, hopefully you can see them.
We can't see them at all. Can you move over the folding chairs, maybe?
We have,
Oh, yes.
yes.
Well, you have, this one you have in the file, Mr.
That's what
Messina.
we do.
And this one is, I want to go over it with you. Put them on a chair, please.
Yeah, we just need height.
The public gets to see it too. Just give us a glimpse, and then,
All right.
that was the different.
I will get to that one, Mr. Chairman. That's later.
If I could just, Mr. Di Nicola, before you go on, well, I'm looking at the lot area, and I see lot 1 will have 20,000 plus, and lot 2 will have 31,000 plus.
Correct.
And 20,000 is needed, so I get it, there's plenty of property there. The only issue I have is, and there's got to be an explanation, and I just don't know what it is, where it says the two-story dwelling on lot having width of 25 feet instead of required 100.
Correct.
It sounds drastic, but I know it's not.
Correct.
But I don't know why it's not. Could you help us?
Well, because it is going to be, the 25 feet is the driveway access from Locust Avenue to the area where the parcel is going to be developed. As you will note, the total parcel is 465 feet deep. So one house will be built at Locust Avenue, fronting at Locust Avenue, and the second house will be built behind the house fronting Locust Avenue, and its access will be the 25-foot right-of-way or driveway.
So here's what I'm struggling with. And Mr. Di Nicola, you were in the town attorney's office long before I got there many years ago. It's been many years since I've been there.
50 years ago.
50?
50.
Okay, there's at least a 40-year precedent that I am aware of on this board frowning upon the creation of flag lots. They're not favored. Can you tell us why this is any different, or why we should consider this differently than 40 years of Dick Shire telling you and I that the flag lots were not favored?
Honestly, that was a preference of Chairman Shire. He did not believe personally in flag lots. Flag lots abound, and I will have an expert who will testify and describe other flag lots in the area. I intend to show the board what the town has been doing as a fiction to get around their objection, if you will, to flag lots.
Thank you.
What, is it the town's objection, or was it our former chairman's?
Well, I think the chairman had such influence, and Mr. Shire, you know, was chairman for a long time.
Sure.
And I believe, Ms. Pizarro may know better than I believe it was his influence that precipitated, if you will, the objection to flag lots. Now,
Do
I
you know what his objection was, why a
He
flag
couldn't
lot?
find the place, it was in someone else's backyard, the fireman would have difficulty locating it, you know, those things. Now, you know, planners may differ with me, but, you know, planners are a little bit more,
I think I myself was present to oppose the application on behalf of the planning department.
I'm
So,
sorry?
Ms. Sarah, maybe you can, as from a planning standpoint, and Ms. Ryan can speak to it as well, what would normally be the opposition to a flag lot? is the downside.
Precedent, and especially in the area of Bohemia where the lots are so large and deep.
There are
So
large
we're
lots,
relying on
deep lots,
precedent for the sake of precedent.
Well,
and
what else are we gonna rely on
the
precedent?
I'm
real
just
estate
saying.
expert, I'm sorry, the real estate expert will testify, I don't want to say precedent,
We look forward to your experts.
how the area has developed. If I may continue, please. Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine, Mr. Levinson. Now, as I indicated, Lot 2 will meet the minimum frontage of 15 feet, I already discussed that. On the plan, which is to my right, if you'll notice the shaded area coming in from Locust Avenue. That shaded area shows a travelway or a paved area, let me put it, of 34 feet from Locust Avenue to the dwelling to be located in the rear. It involves an enormous amount of paving and a turnaround for emergency vehicles, which, quite frankly, are not really required. So the proposed shaded driveway with the cross access will be shared with lot number 1. So lot number 1, lot number 2, under that scenario, was part of the paved area, the driveway, the 34-foot roadway, if you want, will be partly on lot 1, partly on lot 2, which is going to then require a cross-access agreement, an agreement between the two parties for maintenance, and so on. The plan exhibits more paved area than is necessary for access to two proposed dwellings for emergency service vehicles. The proposed 34-foot is a full travelway, if you will, for a standard roadway. To create a turnaround, and again, I'm referring to the plan to my right on the chair, the applicant located a detached garage on lot number 1 where emergency vehicles could turn around. However, by doing so, then the paved access area to the garage necessitates the 0-foot side yard and rear yard driveway, excuse me, setback for lot 1, and the 0-foot side yard for lot 2, where 4 feet is required because the driveway would cross over property lines. It is now 0 and requiring 2 variances, although the variances are very innocuous, I admit. Also, the size and width of the paved driveway creates a front yard occupancy variance of 50.87% for the dwelling in the rear, rather than the permitted 35%. That's for lot 2. Now, the applicant has met with neighbors, and they indicated that they do not want a 34-foot paved road for 2 dwellings. Now, before the board, you have the second plan, Mr. Chairman? Yes. On that plan, you will notice a driveway, 25-foot right-of-way coming in. The detached garage is eliminated.
I think we only have the plan that was updated on April 12th.
I know
mean the one on the board?
I can see,
It's the board that we just handed up.
oh,
Right back there.
That's right here. That's right here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I got it.
Okay, so this is an alternate plan which the applicant has prepared. And compared to the other plan, you'll notice the detached garage has been eliminated. The paved area has been reduced to within the 25-foot access way. The obligations of cross-access agreements are eliminated, and obligations for maintenance are eliminated. You're creating much more space, open space, and it is just a more practical layout than what was reviewed by the Planning and Engineering Department in the plan that was submitted. So it would
So what
eliminate.
you're saying is you're going with this.
If the board prefers, and I believe it should, that is a much better plan than the plan that was submitted. It eliminates the overlapping of the driveway onto property lines. It reduces the front yard, variance, actually it eliminates from 50.8% to 24%, so it meets the 35% requirement. And the house in the rear, the side yard, the north side yard can be increased from 19.5 feet to 32 feet, so to give that neighbor's backyard even more privacy, if you will. So on the north it would be 32.5 feet, on the south it would be 30 feet, much better setbacks.
Mr. DiMicolia, I'm sorry, I lost you. I lost you. I'm looking where it says in the call that the front yard occupancy proposed is 50.87 when 35 is permitted, but you said somehow it reduces to 24%.
If you reduce the paved area, which was on the plan that was submitted, Mr. Wexler.
Oh, so this plan,
that's correct.
This is bad.
Look at that plan and then compare it to this.
Oh, this is Plan B.
Plan B.
This is like a smorgasbord.
Yeah, something like that. So that is a much better layout. You eliminate the two-car garage, you eliminate a tremendous amount of unnecessary paving. Each parcel has its own access, because if you'll notice, the house on Locust Avenue now has its driveway on the north side into its own two-car garage. The rear dwelling.
Well, let me ask you, if this is, let's call the one that Mary Ann is holding, and she's doing she's doing a very good job. Let's say that's Plan B.
Sorry.
I mean, this looks like you eliminate most of your problems except for the fiction of the 25-foot setback. I call it a fiction, but it's still a flag lot. But Plan B, the only drawback is a flag lot.
Well, yes.
But there's some
if you want to call that a drawback.
Right, exactly. But that seems to be the only prohibition. There may be one little technical thing.
It reduces the variance request in the call of the meeting to two things. A width of lot for lot number 1 of 96 feet instead of the required 100 feet, and a width of lot for lot number 2 of 25 feet at the road and at the setback instead of the required 100 feet. But if you follow the driveway back, it opens up to 121 feet with very substantial front yard, side yard, and rear yard setbacks.
So if we were to get over our aversion to flag lots, Plan B would be the way to go.
I believe so.
So Plan A was the stalking horse.
Well, Plan A was submitted to the engineering and planning department for the turnaround.
Oh, I see.
Width and, you know.
But so your client would prefer Plan B?
Absolutely, so would the neighbors.
Yeah, well, it seems to make sense. Okay.
Mr. Wexler, just so that the record's clear, the flag lots are prohibited in the subdivision and land development regulations. It's a very real question as to whether or not we even have authority to measure those.
That's why I think we're gonna have to reserve, because I just don't know.
Well, I mean, the town attorney's gonna have to educate us a little bit, I think. Not today. At some point in the future.
Yeah, I don't know. Let me just ask, so we make a full record, I'm going to follow up on the former town attorney. I don't think it was quite 50 years ago.
1970.
1970? They had a town attorney then? Yeah, I think Henry Wetzel was the town attorney around then. So,
excuse me.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
Here's my question, so we can flesh out the record, following up on our vice chairman. If the town code prohibits flag lots,
The land subdivision and land development regulations. Now, whether or not we can vary things is a question, frankly, that I don't know the answer to. I don't know that anyone else does either.
do you have an opinion on that subject?
The flag lot, although it may be referred to as a flag lot, maybe a planning issue. And but this board has jurisdiction to grant area variances. And if the board grants a front yard width of lot variance for lot number 1 to 96 feet instead of 100 feet, and grants a front yard variance for lot number 2 for 25 feet instead of 100 feet, you have created 2 legal lots, which is within the jurisdiction of this board.
Would you want to, I'm just surmising, this is an issue that I don't know how many of us really have a handle, maybe Mr. Messina, because he was the town attorney. Oh, and I assume that we're going to reserve. Is this something you'd like to submit on? Because I'd like to be educated on this.
I'd like to finish my presentation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And if the board wants reserves and would like something in writing, I'd be pleased to attempt to submit something.
Thank you.
So if I may, what the town has been doing is requesting a yield map. The yield map shows a road, that you can put in a road, you can put in a cul-de-sac. Now we're talking in particular, where you have these elongated lots where one house is going to be developed on a front lot and a second house on the rear lot. They want a yield map, I'm repeating myself, show the road, the full road, show the cul-de-sac, show the subject parcels conforming. And then what they do, they relax the paving, they eliminate the cul-de-sac, and with that fiction, if you will, they approve a flag lot because it can meet a yield requirement. So, but the end result, and what is on the ground, is a driveway to this house in the rear and one house in front of us.
So not that I doubt, but do you have specific concrete examples of when and where this has?
I'm sorry, Mr.
Sure, not that I doubt, but do you have specific examples of when and where this was done?
Yes.
And do you like to submit them tonight, or do you want to submit them?
They will be submitted.
Thank you.
So, as I said before, with the Plan B, as referred to by Mr. Wexler, the variance relaxation requested this evening will be limited, from what I can determine, to both will be width of lot at Lorkstead. Other than that, they will conform in their entirety. We'll be eliminating a ton of paving. You'll be eliminating a detached garage, and in general, it's just a cleaner, better plan. For emergency vehicle access, the proposed driveway would be similar to the driveway at Arbor Court. Arbor Court is 390 feet, roughly, south of the subject parcel. And what the town did is they made the applicant submit a yield plan. The yield plan showed a full driveway access, full roadway with a cul-de-sac, and for 2 lots, and then they relaxed the paving, and there is simply, for Arbor Court, a driveway about 20 feet wide going to the rear house with no turnaround, no cul-de-sac. And that's 390 feet south of the subject parcel.
Are you planning the same thing with some modifications?
What it would wind up being is the exact same as Arbor Court, yes. And again, I won't extend, I'll wrap up so I can bring up Mr. Breslin, but the applicant will be constructing 2 extremely attractive dwellings if the relief is granted on the subject parcel. Just want to show you what it goes, which will certainly enhance the value of the area and not have any adverse impact. Both dwellings will add to the attractiveness and the value of the area. And briefly about the builder, Mr. Calamosa has been a resident of Bohemia for the last past 22 years and a resident of the town of Iceland for 48 years. He has been constructing homes in the town of Islip for 30 years. He's involved in the civics of the town of Islip and is currently vice president of the Lieutenant Michael Murphy Navy SEAL Museum being constructed in West Salem. He cares about his community, and the manner in which he intends to develop the property will reflect his care and concern. At this time, Mr. Chairman, I would like to bring up Mr. John Breslin for testimony, which will answer, I think, a lot of your questions also, Mr. Breslin.
Just one other question while we're waiting for the esteemed Mr. Breslin. The Arbor Court grant, was that a zoning grant? Or was that town, or how did, was that?
I think that was a subdivision, and then the planning department, or planning, they relaxed the pavement and relaxed.
So that wasn't via a grant from us?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
And again, to be clear, there was an application to do this in 1987, from what I saw, right? That was denied. Another one in 96 that was denied.
On this property?
Yes.
On the Arbor Court.
On the Arbor Court.
Arbor Court.
If there's no prior denials on this property, right, I'm aware.
But let me ask you a
Got
question.
it.
I got a quick question too. The board keeps bringing up precedent of quote-unquote flag lots. Do you know how many other lots in this area in 500 feet could be developed like this in the future? Are there many?
Mr. President, I believe I presented that testimony. Thank you. Mr. President, would you please give your name, address, and occupation to the board?
Yes, my name is John Breslin. My business address is 44 Elm Street, Huntington. I'm a licensed real estate appraiser in the state of New York.
I'm sorry, can I just, Mr. DiNicola, can I just get a spelling of the last name?
I'm sorry?
For the record, can I just get a spelling of the last name?
Breslin.
Great, thank you.
Do you have written qualifications, and if so, will you please submit your written qualifications to the board?
They're attached to the report that I'm going to submit.
Very good. Does the board wish to swear Mr. Breslin in?
No.
Did we discuss the application being heard this evening, Mr. Breslin?
Yes, we did.
You make an inspection of the subject premises involved in this application and the area surrounding the subject premises at my request?
Yes, I have.
You prepare a report which shows the property in question and the neighborhood?
Yes, I have.
Have you formed an opinion on the merits of this application? And if so, will you please state that opinion to the board?
Yes. Can I submit several copies of the report so you can follow along while I'm talking about it?
Sure.
While he does that, can I just state for the record that through my private practice, I have referred some work to Mr. Breslin, and none of which, some of it included property to family members, and none of which that I have a financial interest in directly or indirectly. So I see no issue remaining in this application.
Mr. DiNicola, you're also a licensed and practicing attorney.
I am. I'm Breslin, he's DiNicola.
I'm sorry.
I am licensed.
I'm sorry.
But I am as well.
Yes, I know.
So while you're going through that, Mr. DiNicola and Mr. Calvino contacted me several months ago and asked me to review this application and give an opinion with respect to the impacts under the town law and the variances being requested. I was provided application materials, reviewed it, looked at the neighborhood, did some research, and looked at the materials with respect to the town. And included in your materials are pictures of some other, what I would refer to colloquially as flag lots. And I say that because they give that physical appearance. And I don't, to me, the distinction whether they're approved by virtue of a subdivision or they're approved by virtue of a grant, as far as the neighborhood is concerned, doesn't really make any difference. They look exactly the same. It's a distinction without a difference. And I think Mr. DiNicola was speaking about that. I understand you have a code concern with respect to the language in the subdivision regulations. And Mr. Messina, I think at the outset of the meeting, Mr. DiNicola asked to change perhaps the call. I think you hinted on the
I didn't ask to change the call, I consented.
No, I understand. I said when he asked to change
Yes,
the call,
yes.
not you asked to change the call. You consented to it, but I think you indicated that perhaps it wasn't necessary. And I think the reason it's not necessary is once the grant's approved, that the concept of a flag lot, that they're already granted lots, they don't need it. But again, I think its form over substance doesn't really matter. And one of the other questions that the board had asked and is concerned about is perhaps precedent, both from a general concept as well as specifically in this area. I think the chairman just asked the question, is there any lots like this in the immediate vicinity that could similarly be subdivided if the board saw favorably to grant this? And I believe there is one other similar situated lot to the north that has similar dimensions to what the applicant has that would meet that requirement. There are several that have similar depth that are larger that I think would otherwise meet subdivision requirements and be subdivided, wouldn't necessarily need relief from this board for a flag lot. But when you look at the aerial, which I think is the single most important thing to look at when you're looking at this lot, and we think distinguishes, gives you the reason why this particular parcel is different than others, is you can see the neighborhood in this area, especially on the east side of Locust, has already been developed for the most part. And you have a very unusual or different configuration of the lot makeup. And specifically what I mean by that is you have many houses behind houses. In one of the things that I think was discussed by Mr. DiNicola and Mr. Shire's, I guess, reluctance, if you will, with respect to flag lots, is the idea of houses behind houses, and that may not be something that's not common or is unusual. In this case, especially, you have a situation where you have houses behind houses very consistently in this pocket between Walnut and Locust. And they come about in all different ways. They come about because of Carolyn Court, because of Pat Court, and because of, Harbor, just to the south of the subject. They all create different configurations of the roadways and the houses to create the houses behind each other. The subject lot is unusually deep. It's 427 feet deep, when the lots that are immediately around it are only 200 feet or 285 feet, whereas most of those lots are not as deep, which extends it further past the houses that are next to it, putting it into the area where it would be abutting the houses coming in from the next block, which makes it unusual, such that the house behind the house is not going to be an unusual condition. In fact, it will be completely conforming with the conditions in this immediate neighborhood.
So I'm a little confused. So I'm looking at the aerial here, and perhaps you want to join me. I don't see any other flag line. Is that something that's right? Mr. President said there's one to the north, right? Where's the subject parcel?
No, I didn't say it was one. I said that there was one other parcel of similar size. That in answer to the question, is there one that would be similar? I didn't say that there was another.
I apologize then, I misunderstood you.
I was saying that there are many other conditions with houses behind houses, like what the applicant is proposing here.
But nothing that requires you to get, that maybe houses behind houses, but nothing that requires you to traverse someone else's property or adjoining to it to get to the house behind it.
Well, the initial situation that created it was someone else's property. It was developed in some manner. For example, whether it be Carolyn Court, Patch Court, Harbor Court, those.
But they all have frontage on the road, no?
Well, this driveway will have frontage on the road as well.
But only the driveway, not the rest of the.
But it'll physically
I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing. I'm just trying to understand.
No, but the point is, it will physically appear exactly the same. See, Harbor Court here shows the cul-de-sac. It looks like it has a cul-de-sac. When you look at the picture in the report, it doesn't.
Right.
It's a driveway.
You could see that.
It's just a regular driveway. Pat Court on the other side. Again, similarly, just a driveway coming in. It's a private right-of-way. The driveway that comes in looks just like an elongated driveway.
So basically, the thrust of the application is telling the board, in a nice way, get over it with flag lots. I mean, they're there.
Well put, Mr. West.
I mean, I'm looking at the something court, and you're saying that's the equivalent of a flag lot.
When you say that, you mean one to the south, right in the south?
Yeah.
The red
Yes.
line?
Yeah.
Yes. If the person goes down right there,
Right.
that cul-de-sac doesn't exist.
Right.
That's a driveway. And you have a picture of it before you.
But nobody, well,
You know, if it's paved to town spec.
No, it's just regular. When you say paid town spec, I don't know about the depth of the amount of underlayment of those things, that I don't know.
Does it appear to be a roadway that's just taken over? Or
No.
is that just an asphalt drive?
No, it's a drive.
I think what Mr. President is saying is that if the board were to see this property, there would be no precedence in here because there's already roads that are coming in, whatever you want to call them, to a quote-unquote flag lot. That's what I'm not.
Yeah, and I tend to agree that we're not talking about a whole here, where how it was created is important. These are,
well, it is important.
Well, no,
That's
but
not what we're
it-
talking about in this particular moment, right?
right, but earlier, these are this is an immutable characteristic once we're done. It doesn't matter how it was created, all that matters is that it's there.
Well, I disagree with that, but okay.
But you also.
Assuming it's created legally.
But we also have to be cognizant, and this is not your issue, because you've addressed it, and Mr. DiNicola has. We have to be cognizant that if we grant it, when we see this again, we will not be able to deny them if they have similar characteristics. And that's why I said, maybe the town should get over, or we should get over it with flag lots. I just don't know.
And again, I think that the idea, the term flag lot, if when you say the town frowns on it, doesn't like flag lots.
No, Mr. DiNicola said.
But he's repeating, I guess, what has been told to him, and planning apparently saying they don't want flag lots, so they're advising.
Just getting it all started from Dick Shire.
We can blame Mr. Shire, but the point is, even though that's the what's coming out, they're still being created in physically. It's two of the pictures of flag lots that I submitted, one on Walnut and one in Ocean. Those are recent. Those are within the last 2 years. One of those houses was sealed, I think, last year, and the other is under construction right now.
But we didn't grant those.
No, but with all due respect, the town is the town to the outside public.
Well, to
So-
the outside public, but you know better than most. This board is an autonomous quasi-judicial body, and we don't always agree with the town.
No,
I think Dick Shire took an appeal against the town once.
Many of them.
Yeah. As chairman of the zoning board.
But again, you're a board of equity. You're here to grant relief to somebody and to allow them to do something they're not otherwise permitted to do under code. So in this case, you're looking at creating something. The only deficiencies, if this is granted, would be lot width. In one case, lot width, the 25 feet for the driveway, and the other lot width.
And frontage.
And the frontage, well, it will have the frontage, it won't have the lot width.
You have 25 feet of frontage, that's,
Yeah, so
that's not in accordance with.
No, but at the building site where the house will be, it will be well over meet the requirement.
But not in the street.
And the house next door that will be 96 feet is, that I would argue it's the minimus to start with, but the house immediately to the north of it is only 92 feet. And again, when you look at the map, you'll see there are others that are less than 100 feet in the area. It's not an uncommon condition. It's merely that.
No, if we denied 96 feet, I'd take the appeal. I get it.
So the only issue is whether the 25 feet driveway, which is very similar to the condition that exists less than 400 feet to the south, it's whether you call it a flag lot or you call it a subdivision to the developer, to the viewer, to the neighbor, the conditions are exactly the same.
So you're saying what's in a name?
So precisely. Also, under Mr. DiNicola also referenced 288 of the town law, which is the right to build on private right of way. And that's also another avenue that the board can use as a means to grant the relief.
So let's talk about that for a second. Who would own the driveway? Under
The
Plan B?
under the current configuration, the back house would own the driveway.
Okay, and does lot 1 use the driveway for its ingress and egress to the road as well, to Locust Avenue? It does, from what I'm seeing. Right?
If I may, Mr. Brown, on plan.
Okay, I see.
Can we have a date for a reference to Plan B? It's not dated. Just, you want to just call it Plan B, and that's how it's
Yeah,
going in the
just call it
plan?
Plan
I already wrote Plan B on it.
Okay.
Plan B dated July 20th.
Plan
It's
B.
been so marked.
So
Mark, right.
on Plan B, the lot one has a proposed driveway on the north side of the premises.
Right.
So it's not gonna be sharing lot
There will be
two.
no shared driveway access on the plan that you're looking at, that we have been referring to as Plan B. The house fronting on Locust would have its own driveway on the north side, and the 25-foot would belong in its entirety to Lot 2.
Thank you.
So in conclusion, under the standards of the 267, obviously there's no other way to get to develop it this way without relief from this board or this relief. Based on the aerial, I don't think it changes the character of the neighborhood. I don't think it's going to have any adverse impact on real property values because no house is going to be any closer to a neighbor than the code envisions, and it's not an uncommon condition in the neighborhood. It's already a clear lot. The sizes of the lot exceed the area requirements of the district. All of the requisite municipal facilities will be available. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to note that the report and the exhibits, photos attached to Mr. President's report and his curriculum vitae will be made part of the record, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. That concludes the applicant's presentation. I thank the board for its time and inquiry.
Great.
I would respectfully request that the board approve the application submitted.
Sure. Deirdre, from planning, would you like to put anything on record from planning standpoint before we ask?
Well, planning is against this application. Just think it's a dangerous precedent for the area. I believe that there might possibly be 6 other lots in the area that could also be made into flag lots.
How it can possibly be, or they're all?
Could possibly be based on lot area, based on lot width, if this is approved.
Can you show me some on the, you point them out, maybe with the,
Yep.
within 500 feet that we normally would go by?
So these two right below it actually are around the same area as this one, and they're wider. So these two would even be asking for a wider driveway width.
You're telling me you'd be able to get a quote-unquote flag lot on one of those lots?
It could be
You get
possible.
220,000 square foot lots, how big is that lot?
40,000, over 40,000 for those.
So you wouldn't be able to get 220s if you had to get a flag lot.
You would.
Oh, you would, you're right.
But you'd never be able to comply with setbacks.
Well, that's a different issue. That
Just based on
depends
lot
on how big
area
a
and
house
the lot width.
and how you engineer it.
Yeah, because they're over what's required for lot width and they're over what's required for lot area, just going on that. There's also this one up here. There's this one up here. These, this one possibly could as well. This one, they're all the same. They're all over 400 feet in depth, except for these two.
Ms. Ryan,
They're oversized.
tomorrow, if you want, whatever, just if we could identify those lots by tax map
Yep.
number, just submit them to Ms. Sarah.
And Mr. Deirdre, I understand what you're saying on that, but I don't think any of those lots would have the same application that the application that's in front of us now. They would require much more.
Much more.
I don't know that that's true, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. And it's not been engineered, and Ms. Ryan, frankly, has a lot more information than we do with respect to that. I mean, I wouldn't second guess her. It may turn out that way, and it may not.
I'm not second guessing.
Well, you are.
I'm asking a question. I'm not second
No,
guessing.
you made a statement that you didn't think that those were capable, right? So, or that they would require more relief. And we don't know, and I think that's the point. And Ms. Ryan is saying that they potentially are. You may determine that she's credible, you may not. You may determine Mr. Breslin is more credible, but I don't know that any of us sitting here have the kind of site engineering expertise that would be necessary.
My concern is, again, that if there are potential others, any landowner who wants to maximize profits will say, I want the same deal. And if it's potential, then we could end up, once again, if we determine that flag lots are for both, and we don't want them, or we decide to say, yeah, who cares about flag lots? But I see, that was my concern, is that are we opening up potential for at least half a dozen others?
I'm just not
I
sure
didn't
we can
realize that
say,
flag lots were the boogeyman.
I'm not sure we can just say flag lots in general. I think every application would have to be on its own. That's-
So what exactly from a planning perspective is the problem with flag lots?
It just creates there's density issues. There's too many people in the area, there's too much traffic, there's people not taking care of their driveways that are going down, and things kind of on the road. It's on their private property, so they don't care as much where.
So couldn't the same argument be made for really any development?
It could be, but there's code about that.
And
It's
it's
exactly about this as well.
Right, because it's prohibited.
And it's
So-
exactly.
Well, no, I struggle with the concept, but this isn't for tonight, that the subdivision regulations are part of the code, even though they are adopted by reference. Because they're created by a non-legislative body.
He's had many sleepless nights.
I struggle with that concept, but we won't touch that tonight.
Let me
But the
just
fact
ask-
is, it's exacerbated by the fact that it's such a long drive, and maintenance costs are much higher for a long driveway, and traffic issues are much greater for a long driveway. For example, two cars passing, one going in and one going out. You don't have that issue on a short, typical residential driveway. Now, is that enough that we should declare all flag lots to be verboten? That's probably someone else's decision. But I mean, there is a legitimate, I would recognize personally, there's a legitimate concern about that type of development. Whether or not the applicant here has overcome that concern is, obviously going to be based on the record.
Deidre, if I could just follow up, the aversion for both of these, it's not even English, so we use aversion. I think it's Latin.
It's German, isn't it?
No, revulsion is German. Aversion is Latin. Aversion is Latin. Okay, so we use Latin rather than German, but I think you know the answer. Is the aversion to flag lots, and I still think there is a generally recognized by planners in general that they favor against or militate against flag lots, or you don't know?
I don't know.
Okay.
I also like to point out that this flag lot that they keep mentioning, our report, it's not seen as a flag lot, and this opening here is 62 feet. So it's not the same as 25.
But there's no cul-de-sac there, it's a straight drive.
Well, this area is also from 2016, so I don't like taking this as law to look at, because, the conditions could change, and I'm not sure what it looks like. It's obviously also still covered by trees.
And it's mapped as a cul-de-sac, right?
Right, but it's also, again.
So that it could be
twice the
developed
size.
as a cul-de-sac at any moment.
That's next generation issues.
But it can be.
But the photo that's submitted shows the existing conditions as they are today. And though that is not inconsistent with the way that they're treated in subdivisions, as the one on Walnut, the one on Ocean, which is very recent. And it's inconsistent with the argument about the idea that it creates more traffic, that it creates something different. If that's the case, then why is planning doing it?
And Walnut and Ocean are beyond the 500-foot radius.
No, but.
I understand your point. Your point is the town is still doing it.
So it
I
doesn't make
understand the
sense
point.
that the idea that it's something of a problem universally if the town is doing it anyway.
It was an as-of-right development.
But again, the process, so why relax the standards? If that concept is such a problem, why relax the standards?
Mr. Breslin, I'm looking at your CV, and I know this just from you appearing before us, but you do, and you've been recognized as an expert in every town and village in Suffolk County and Nassau County. And I don't know, do other municipalities have a Jones against flag lots, or is it more of an isolated thing, if you know?
No, some of the municipalities, some have had it in the past, some have it, some don't have it. They look at what the neighborhood looks like. And others also have in their planning regulations a provision where you can move the setback line back for a two-lot subdivision. So in that case, in this case, you'd be able to move that setback line back and the only relief would be from the driveway.
So you're saying that the lot would theoretically be the full width
Yeah,
rather than
you-
just the 25?
Planning would have the authority to move that lot width back.
That's interesting.
All right, thank you.
I just want to clarify, Ms. Ryan, did she say that Arbor Court had a road? I understand you to say that?
That's the way, because it's a separate parcel from the house that owns the parcel, the person that owns the house.
It's mapped, I think, separately.
Paper Street. The cul-de-sac is Paper Street.
No, it's a private.
It's a private driveway, there's a sign about 40, 50 feet in, private driveway, not a through road.
It's just
And
math.
and it goes straight back to their garage, and it's about 20 feet wide, and it's not a road, it's a driveway. And just to address two cars coming in and out, I mean, you have a house, it's a single-family dwelling, you're not gonna have traffic going in and out. My driveway is 185 feet, I have yet to have someone coming in when I'm going out.
It's because nobody visits you, Mr.
I think, well, this is true, I am alone, I accept that.
You're struggling in a lonely existence, I know, sir.
So just to answer the question about the road, if I can help just Deirdre just a little bit. So as you know, the road was placed on the official map. The subdivision was granted by the planning board as a major subdivision because involved placement of the road on the official map.
But they reduced the pavement, and what is on the ground is a driveway.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. I believe the applicant has certainly carried his burden, and I would respectfully request that this board approve the application, and if they want to consider the quote Plan B, where only 2 variances will be required, both with a lot, and it's a much cleaner development and much nicer for the neighborhood. And we're concerned about the neighborhood also. Thank you very much. I appreciate all the time.
Thank you.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? One at a time, please come up, name and address to the record. You can go, sir. Whoever wants to come first.
You are all now experts on flag lots, every one of them.
Here I am.
Name and address to the
Chairman,
record.
ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Flag lots is basically,
Name and address, please.
excuse me,
Name and address to the record, please.
Jimmy Garner,
Address.
17 Carroll Court.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, President. This meeting is reminiscent of a meeting I attended well over 50 years ago in the town of Oyster Bay. Bill, my dad. They put 1 flag lot in there, 2 houses, half acre. Then eventually, they put 3 houses, common driveway, all the way down. It's tenement housing. It doesn't add to the community at all, right? And that's what I'm afraid of. I live in a court across the area from where this flag lot is going in, and I have the potential of maybe having the same thing in the back of my house, which I don't want. So, that's my views.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions? No? Have a nice evening.
You have a nice evening. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. Name and address to the record, please.
Joe Stork, 18 Carroll Court.
How are you?
Very good.
Say Gerald Ford, since we're on that president.
Well, a lot of what I was going to say has been already said about 100 times, so I'm going to get right to the quick here.
Thank you.
Assuming Plan B, which is the latest plan, I assume, whether it be a flag lot or not, I had a conversation, a meeting with Mr. Calvosa this week, and we talked about some of the things that we needed as a family to get over having 2 houses on our backyard. Our backyard is abutted to this lot, and we have 171 feet of backyard, and that whole 171 feet is part of that property. So you can imagine that we were kind of shocked when this happened, although you're always wary that it might. But after our meeting with Mr. Calvosa, he understood and has flexibility to give us some things that were not on the map that was going to be voted on tonight. We had 19 and a half feet as a side lot to our backyard. Now that's up to 32 feet. on this new plan. So if we can keep the things that are on that new plan intact for Lot 2, we don't have a problem with what we're doing here.
So just to be certain, have you seen this particular map that was handed out?
It's right here.
Please take a look at
Careful
it.
walking up there, it's not safe.
No, look at this one. I want to make sure that this one is the one that you
That's
saw,
Plan B.
so that you can't say later, oh,
Yeah.
I was shown something.
It's highly unlikely Plan A would be considered. So Plan B is probably the plan to be.
All this stuff like-
Guys, if we could just answer the question, if that's gonna be the one that the gentleman was speaking of? That's the one?
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure.
Thank you. I think we're wrapped up. Unless anybody else.
So, again, if that's phased the way it is now, whether it be, a flag lot or not, they've gone far enough that trying to return the forest that we had is not gonna happen because the trees are down and everything. So, may as well put the houses in, again, if you get all the things on the new document that's gonna be voted on, that's in our, best, interest.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good night.
Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Come on up, sir. Name and address for the record, please. If you can speak loud and clear into the microphone.
Yes, Peter Ray, 22 Carolyn Court. I'll just make it short and sweet. The proposal that I've been referring to as Plan B is the only proposal that we would in any way, shape, or form consider at this point. Just wanted to make sure that that's clear and that's the only thing on the table.
Okay. Sir, let me ask you something.
Sure.
Over here.
Hi.
Hi. All right. Are you saying that if you had to take something, you'd take Plan B, or that you support Plan B?
Well, if I had my druthers, I'd rather see just a single family home on the property. But, to be fair and, kind of feeling that these things are going to be inevitable anyway, it's going to kind of come down anyhow that obviously we favor Plan B rather than Plan A.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Come on up, name and address for the record. Please speak clearly. Michael.
My name is Amber Martello. I live on Brook Street Court, which is right across the street from the lot.
Could you just spell your last name?
Sure. I like Mary, A-R, T like Thomas, E-L-L-O. I lived in Islip for 20 years. I've lived on that street since 2004. I watched as the home that was there fell in disrepair when the former owner fell ill and had to be moved to the hospital and eventually passed away. We watched it, right before our eyes. The home fell apart. Nobody was taking care of it. The property was, overgrown. The Calvosa family are a family from Bohemia, and they take great pride in their work. I support their application for a variance, and I respectfully request that you approve it. I trust that they will have great pride and integrity in improving the community where all our children will grow up. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? I'll take a motion from Mr.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we reserve decision, however, in accordance with what we had represented to Mr. DiNicola. We'd like to give him, Mr. DiNicola, 2 weeks, okay, to get a submission on that issue about the variance from the land development regulations. Is that all right for you? You need more time?
Yeah, I'm gonna be on vacation next week.
Sure, tell me how much you need.
Want 30 days?
45?
3 weeks.
Let's say 30 days. That way you have a little cushion. Life gets away from us, even though, when we're alone.
And that's gonna be more time.
And Ms. Ryan, we have the same amount of time to submit her, the lots that she identified today. So that would be my motion, Mr. Chair.
You want simultaneous submission?
Sure.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
30 days. I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
As you know, we have 62 days after your submission. Time's up.
No, I understand.
And can we please have
Thank you
more
very much for
copies?
your time. I
Can we please
appreciate
have more
it.
copies of Plan B now that it's part of the file?
Can I leave that with the board?
Please, I'm taking that, but
Do you want the
I,
board back or do you leave it on the board?
Yeah, I don't think you need the board.
No, it's gonna be a pain in the backside to take off.
Just take it and,
Mr. DiNicola, has this been run by anybody to make sure that you have all the variances covered, there's not something you missed? Front yard occupancy, rear yard occupancy, all that?
I have done it, I'm confident that, I hit it.
I just don't want to, let's say we do decide to approve it, have to hear this again.
What I can do then is I can submit it either to Mr. Burgos or, because I have a copy of that. I'll submit it, some from the county.
I think that would be prudent.
That's up to you. It's up to you.
I'm not doubting his ability at all, the man is talented.
I hope you don't spend my nights.
This is a rough evening. And none of these comments, just so the record is clear, none of them came from me. Not Mr. Messina, none of them.
maybe if you do resubmit this, additional copies,
I'm sorry?
get additional copies.
Yes.
We probably should have a date on this plan too.
Yes,
I will have them dated and I'll get them as soon as I possibly can. Madam Secretary, and I'll get them over.
Thank you.
You guys have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chairman, our next application is number 429-21, Edwin J. Vanderline. Permission to do accessory structure 20 feet by 30 feet irregular, having a side yard of 1.7 feet, a rear yard of 3.6 feet, and setting required 10 feet each, giving a floor area ratio of 34.3% instead of 25%. Residence Beach District, north side of Holbrook Street, number 1, 198.7 feet east of Fifth Avenue, Bay Shore, New York. Name and address for the record, please, sir.
John Tugel, that's T like Tom, EU, F like Frank, EL, professional engineer, 707 Route 110, Farmingdale.
How are you doing?
I'm good, Robin. Thank you, folks. I'm here tonight, as the council states, representing Edward Vanderlyn, one Holbrook Street, Bay Shore. He's seeking to maintain a 632 square foot accessory structure garage in his rear yard. This structure existed as it is today when Mr. Vanderlyn purchased the property in May of 2000. The zone is residential B, where a 10-foot side and rear yard setback is required for an accessory structure. And we are seeking to maintain the current 1.7-foot side yard and 3.6-foot rear yard setbacks. We're also requesting to maintain the existing 34.3% floor area ratio instead of the permitted 25%. As mentioned previously, the accessory structure existed and was reported to Mr. Vanderlyn to be a legal cottage when he purchased the house in May of 2000. Now he's aware of the correct status. He proposes to remove, there is a bathroom in the structure. He's going to remove that. He's going to remove the interior partitions.
Why, let me just interrupt you. Why should we grant this because he built it when we would never grant it if somebody didn't build it and sought approval beforehand?
Well, he didn't build it, it was there.
Well, he meaning the owner, he steps into the.
Well, he was ignorant of it. I mean, he thought it was legal.
But pure bark wouldn't have had, doesn't help us. If somebody had come to us and said, I would like to build this, we would resoundingly say no. So what is the rationale that we would grant it since it has already been built?
Well, it's just the garage, first of all, it's not a residence, it's
No,
not
but we
gonna
would have
be-
granted it as a garage anyway. If somebody said, I want to extend my garage, we would say no, but we'd say it nicely. But why, since it's already built, does that make it okay?
Well, I'm not saying it makes it okay, I'm just saying we need relief from the zoning code to maintain it as it is. Again, the owner thought it was,
I know, that's what I said, okay, I get it. Thank you.
Mr. Tufel, any precedent in the area for this relief that you're seeking?
I'm sorry.
Do you know of any precedent in the area for this relief that you're seeking for a detached structure?
I believe there are other detached garages in the area, I'm not sure of the size, the exact setbacks.
Deed of complaining, any precedent for detached structure of this size, setback side of your?
Not for the side and rear, the highest that even FAR goes is 30.9.
Mr. Tufel, I'm not sure that we have, your argument, although I understand where you're coming from, we have nothing to hang our hat on, as we say, for your argument, you find it no question.
I understand what you're saying, it's reasonable.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. McCoy, I'll take a motion.
Motion to deny the application.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, Senator, application denied.
No problem, thank you for your advice.
Thank you. Next application, number 430-21, Joseph P. and Samantha Kundari. Permission to install a 6-foot fence on the private property line, not having required setback of 10 feet. Residence A, District Northwest corner of Flaxman Drive, number 102 and First Street, Holbrook. Name and address for the record, please, sir and ma'am.
I'm Samantha Kundari, 102 Flaxwood Drive, Holbrook.
I'm Joseph Kundari.
How are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Yeah.
So you're seeking fence on the property line with 6-foot fence when a 4-foot is allowed.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
So it's a one-way street, and I was, we were hoping to put up the 6-foot fence for more of a security purpose. We have young children. We've had things missing from our yard. We're concerned when we're out there that someone could reach over. It's a very busy neighborhood in that sense. I talked to my friend who works for the town. He said he would help measure out the site triangle so that nothing would be blocked at all of view. So we intend to respect that site triangle idea and make it safe for everyone, including us and our children. So if you would appreciate it.
Yeah.
Question, is there a sidewalk next to that fence?
There is.
Yeah. I know the code has been changed to 11,250. We see up to 12. This property, according to the survey, is 12,771.
Just for the sake of precedent. Yeah, let's press it.
I meant, she said, the objection. I said, precedent. Let's leave the precedent. They have changed.
A bunch of our neighbors even said it's we need some, they would write something saying everyone was okay with
They
it.
apologize for not being present, but they did say if there's letters to be written, there's someone that they can do anything they can.
So we're relying on Bill.
Yeah. Any complaining? Any objection?
neighbor stand up concern, there's a concrete walkway right there. I'd be okay if they want to maybe do 5 feet back and 6 feet, as kind of a compromise instead of 10 feet.
The size of that property, though.
Yeah, I mean, they'd be losing it, but they'd be losing some backyard there.
And we are willing, like you said, to lose part of our yard for the safety
Yeah,
of our
but
kids.
he said he'll come over and he'll measure it out correctly, like the site triangle, so it's not blocking any view,
We
it's just one way.
The neighbor complaining was recommending that you put the fence 5 more feet in.
It would just really cut off our yard if we did that. Like, we have such a small yard over the.
And then we have a sprinkler right by the fence too, so bringing it in would cause more.
Oh, yeah, that's a big thing.
Yeah, it's like maybe like, I don't know, 6 inches away from the fence, so to bring it in, you know, an extra foot or however you said, we'll have to rewire a whole sprinkler system.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Ms. Messina, take motion.
Chairman, I move to grant.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted.
Thank you so much, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Number 431-21, Charles H. and Adele Spencer, permission to erect a one-story addition, 9.7 feet by 28.3 feet, leaving a side yard of 8 feet instead of the required 14 feet to erect a second-story addition, two-story addition, one-story addition, and roof over porch, all having a floor area ratio of 32% instead of permitted 25%, and to install driveway, leaving the front yard occupancy 39% instead of permitted 35%. Residence A District, east side of Davidson Lane, 51, 623.37 feet south of Lagoon Road, West Islip. Name and address for the record, please, sir.
Excuse me, David Bush, registered architect office at 90 West Main Street, Bay Shore. With me tonight are Mr. and Mrs. Spencer, the owners of the residence at 51 Davidson Lane, East and West Islip. Members of the board, pleasure seeing in person. It's a change of for sure. Thank you for hearing us this evening. As stated, the existing residence is 51 Davidson Lane, East West Islip. It's in the current zoning residence A zoning district. The existing residence is a single-story style ranch with a primary, kitchen, living, dining space, floor plan. It has 3 bedrooms, a den, utility room, and a single-car attached garage. What we're going to look at tonight is a proposed improvement which substantially matches the existing program. It's an open floor plan with a kitchen, living, dining room. We're adding 1 additional bedroom, and in essence, taking the den utility room, changing that to an office, and we're adding a second bay to the existing single-story garage. In the proposed addition, we're going to be putting 2 bedrooms up on the 2nd floor.
What is the existing side yard? I see, let me just read it so we're all clear.
Yeah.
It says permission to erect 1-story addition, and it gives dimensions, leaving side yard of 8 instead of required 14. What is the existing side yard?
So if we could call it the existing survey, I don't know what's on the screen, but
I think it says 17.9, right?
So we have 17.9 foot side yard to the north side and 15.1 foot to the south side.
So you want to go to 8 feet?
Correct, the proposed.
Is there precedent? I mean, that's almost a 50%, what is it, a 42% reduction?
Right.
Is there precedent for that?
There isn't precedent, but I don't want to say there is no precedent. I did review things with the zoning department.
It's a lot of things that are true that we don't want to say.
I know, but I just want to know how many in a 500-foot radius, because to me, that's the main issue. How many other 8-foot side yards are there within a 500-foot radius? I mean, that's substantial.
I can certainly do that homework. I don't have that answer in front of me.
I mean, to me, that's the key. I mean, I know Dietrich's done the work, but that's almost a 50% reduction. That's a big ask.
I appreciate that it is not quite a 50% reduction. It's less than 50%.
Yeah, 42%. That's still substantial.
Right.
We see 4%, 8%, 9%.
If one of the things I might indicate is that there was a prior grant on this property. Should I walk you through everything, or you want me to just?
What was the prior grant?
Excuse me?
What was the prior grant?
The prior grant on this property, there was,
Was it an 8-foot side yard?
there was an existing, this lot was an existing 100-foot width. It had a grant of 10 foot to the property to the south, deeming it a 90-foot wide parcel, it's 89.92 foot. So that 10-foot width reduction, although on the south side, did decrease the overall width of the property, and in essence, take away some of the buildable area.
So, again, I just can't follow you. Was there a prior grant allowing 10 feet instead of 14?
I don't have that in front of me.
I don't know. Okay, we'll look up the prior
Again, I
grant.
did review that specifically with Teresa in the zoning department, and prior to any submission on the planning, for the application, we reviewed percentages, setback, everything that was proposed here, and was indicated that was within the West Islip, zoning allowances, zoning board grants.
So I'm looking at the CO for 51 Davidson Lane, and there is no reference to prior. So, just for your information.
Understood.
Because
I'm not saying it was a
now.
prior, so I'm not saying it was a prior zoning board grant, right? I'm asking for the zoning board grant tonight for the setback.
I thought you just said there was a prior zoning board grant.
I said there was, I apologize, I used the word grant. There was a gifting of 10 foot of the property line from the south side of the property.
Use grant as grantor.
I apologize, gifting of the property
Or maybe you meant the general.
Where did the property go?
to the parcel to the south.
Who owns that?
I don't have that name.
So, wait, were they compensated?
Don't have that record.
Well, they didn't give it. I mean,
Well, no, because that has a bearing on zoning.
sure.
If they're compensated, they don't get the benefit of compensation.
But wait a while, is the area that was gifted, sold, conveyed, is that the area that you're seeking the variance?
It is not.
It's irrelevant.
It's relative to the FAR.
No, it's irrelevant.
Well, it's relevant to the FAR.
Right.
It's difficult, and it's another big ask, and I'm telling you, it's giving me concern. You can't convey, divest yourself of property, whether you do it because it's a donative intent, a gift, you like the person, or you're getting compensated. You can't divest yourself of property and then say, oh, I want a variance. You don't get it both ways.
So the one-story addition with the side yard relief is the one-story garage addition?
Correct. A single story addition.
Is
And
the,
in the making of that single story addition, if I may, the existing ridge height of the existing residence is approximately 22 foot 3 inches. With the single story addition to the garage side, that ridge height is actually coming down to about 17 foot 8. So it dropped plus or minus 3.5 to 4 feet in terms of ridge height.
Would you, your client's right behind you, would you
Yes.
find out what was the reason for the conveyance of 10 feet of their property?
My clients are new owners of this property.
So they don't know.
Right. You don't.
But it was done in 1955, right?
All right, and you don't know. Okay, you don't know, but it presents a hurdle for us.
so we can move on to more of this, but you see where the board's going with this one side yard relief?
Mm-hmm.
If there's, you may want to possibly think about a plan B of maybe not having the side relief.
I'd be happy to hear, the planning department, if they have findings of other similar setbacks in the area, the 500 foot.
Did you plan any side yard?
The closest side yard was granted at 9.67, but otherwise, mostly they're granted 11 feet, 11.4, around that.
And the FAR.
FAR, the highest is one at 31.5 and another at 31.07.
No, you're way over on everything. There's no precedent.
Now, Mr. Bush, what would happen to the FAR if you got rid of the garage? I think it's a garage. You said the one-story addition. Get rid of that, just eliminate the side yard issue. What happens to the FAR?
Calculation for your own.
I would imagine that it brings it into an acceptable range. Get where I'm going with this.
Well, I just want to, and I appreciate everything that's been brought up, I do. If I might, I want to start with the existing residence. The existing residence, as it stands right now, under the Town Islip Code, reviewed with Teresa's zoning board, is at an FAR of 28.8%.
Sure.
Okay. So approximately just about 29%. The proposed, primary proposed additions and gains to the property are minor bumps on the first floor, a 6-foot bump. There is a 9-foot addition to the garage we're looking at, but substantially we're maintaining the footprint of the existing first floor. The rear veranda that's proposed as well, which is part of the FAR, because now it's covered, is presently a hardscape patio space. So in essence, the same impervious space to the.
But you understand where we're going. This is not going your way.
I appreciate that.
So maybe rather than go, you can do what you want, but why don't you take an adjournment, speak with Deidre at planning and see what is doable? I mean, you're way outside the heartland of what was granted. We've had a gazillion West Islip cases, and they're small pieces of property, and everybody wants big homes, and they're incompatible.
So once you sharpen your pencil, do you know what our range seems to be? Try to land somewhere in there.
Which, again, I did review with Teresa in the zoning
Yeah, but
department.
Teresa's not on the zoning board. You don't see her up. We outrank her. Okay?
Sure.
She's an E3, we're E9, okay?
Or Mr. Bush, you can do whatever you can take an adjournment if you like, or you can, I believe, and I'm not an expert to calculate this, but as Mr. Nicoli said, if you remove that one-star garage addition, I don't think you have an issue A with the side yard, or B with FAO.
I think that, what I heard tonight was that there was a grant of 9.67 on the side yard within West Islip.
One.
I appreciate that.
11. But you still run into an issue with FAR.
Right, I respect it, I do. And I also heard that with, the grants in the neighborhood of 31.5% below the 32%.
So why don't you take an adjournment and?
Wait, where, did you say 32%?
No,
31.5.
I said in lieu of the 32%, which is the request.
Yeah, but so if you, even if you decide you did a 9.68 for argument's sake, I'm not sure, you're the architect, I'm not, but that's not a garage with a single car there.
No, it would become a car and a half garage, right? So this will be for storage. There is no basement, as you know, in this area, West Islip. There's limited attic space. There's only two. Again, this house is not. I know it's. We look at it and we say it's a substantial FAR. The existing residence is at 29%. You have the existing footprint. I appreciate the 32 to 31.5. We'll certainly take a good look at that.
Sure.
But without the any basement storage space, that space within the garage.
And everybody's in the same boat. They all have those.
So would you like an adjournment to sharpen a pencil and come back with hard numbers and talk to planning, or would you like us to reserve and discuss this?
So I would like to make sure that you have on record, I have an original copy from the neighbors to the north in support of the application. That was emailed in.
I have that right here.
I think you should also think, and with your clients there, 30% is probably the correct number for FAR. 30%. Well, yeah, whatever the heartland of grants are, we would certainly.
Compelling argument that you consider.
So would you like an adjournment, or would you like us to?
We're going to like to adjourn the hearing. Are there any findings that I might ask Ms. Ryan to communicate tonight in the district?
She's communicated what she found already.
You could contact her, do
adjournment.
talk with her.
Is there anyone should be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Want to open adjournment or you want to switch?
Well, August 10th, as long as you move in the direction of conformity, then we can amend at the beginning.
Okay, very good.
Make a motion to adjourn to August 10th. Favor?
Thank you.
August 10th.
August 10th.
1-0.
Next application number 432-21, Joseph and Kristen Bagley. Permission to leave pergola at 26 feet by 40 feet, having a side yard of 14 feet instead of required 18 feet, total side yard is 35 feet instead of required 36 feet. And pool equipment, having a side yard of 1.6 feet instead of the required 6 feet. Residence double main districts outside of Marion Lane, number 22, 463.04 feet east of Gator Road, Hop Hog. Name and address, please, for the record.
Mitch Brindle, Integrity Expediting, office located 1717 North Ocean Avenue, Suite F, Medford, New York, 11763.
How are you tonight?
Doing great, Chairman, as board, how are you doing?
Good.
Good to see you back, good to see you.
It is good to be back. Thanks, Chris.
So here before the board this evening, requesting permission to maintain a pergola in the rear yard. It is a framed pergola with screening around the outside of the rear patio area. It has a side yard 14 feet instead of required 18 feet, equaling total 35 instead of required 36.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
I'm going to interrupt you, I apologize.
Sure thing.
You said pergola with screening around it, so the top of this pergola, because they usually open, it's screened?
The topping is screened.
We don't have any pictures of it in the area. Okay.
I do have some photos here.
Can you submit them?
We keep them though, right?
Sure. You can have, mark them up, keep them.
You can just hand them the area.
So wait, is there a screen on the top too?
Yes.
So it's like a screened in person, so no bugs. That's pretty convenient. Not gonna lie. Is it connected to the house?
It is.
Oh, it's connected to the house. So it's like a sunroom but with no glass.
Connected to the house.
This is huge. So what, is it just like a screened-in outdoor area?
Exactly, it's covering the rear patio area.
Yes, never to be
I used
enclosed?
to show pictures of this to my wife.
Say again?
Never to be enclosed?
Never to be enclosed.
And there's
Other than
no,
the screen.
Other than the screening?
other than this, that's right.
Yeah, nothing, the
You can't,
screen.
you can't put windows and doors in the wall.
No.
Make it a den.
No, definitely
My
not.
old man did that when I was a kid, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
that's
Speaking from
Sure, he
experience.
did it legally, no. Sure. he did. The chairman's father was a law-abiding citizen.
Of course he did.
What happened to the sun?
A model citizen.
Wow. All right, does anyone wish to have this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Messina, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we grant the application, subject to the provision that the pergola is never to be further besides the current.
Second. All in favor?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Next application, number 433-21, Dana Gramo. Hope I pronounced that correctly. Permission to erect two-story addition, leaving side yard of 10 feet, and cell chambers, leaving side yard of 5.9 feet instead of required 40 feet. Total side yards of 17.9 feet instead of required 28 feet. Front and rear roof double porches, leaving side yard of 10 feet, roof double entrance, leaving side yard of 12 feet. Instead of the required 14 feet, additions resulting in floor area ratio of 29%, instead of the permitted 25%. Residence A District, west side of Secretary Lane Avenue, number 28, 200 feet north of Dixie Lane, East Islip, New York. Name and address for the record, please, Mr. Ryan.
Christopher N., 93 Main Street, West Station, 11796.
How are you, Mr.
Good, members of the board. We are proposing.
All right, wait a second.
Yeah, so.
Did we get that?
I got it.
Okay.
I'm accusing on this.
So Mr. Sullivan's recusing on you, so. Okay. Your burden just got 3. You gotta go 3 for 4.
Mr.
Cleo works at the DA's office, she's an attorney, is that correct?
That's correct. Okay, so we are proposing a front porch and 2-story extensions on the side and the rear of the existing house, and also a proposed covered porch in the rear. Also a cellar stair on the side of the house, and that is on the south side of the house. With the additions, we have relaxations on the side yard, 5.9 to the cellar stair and 10 feet to the 2-story addition, as well as the front porch, and as well as the rear porch as well. We are also asking for a relaxation on the front yard setback from 40 feet to 38.7, and an overall FAR of 29%. I understand that the cellar stairs seem excessive, but they're going to be cellar stairs and they will never be covered.
It's covered, it'll be covered in close.
That's correct.
Right, and any precedence for the side of 10 instead of 14?
Yes, I discussed it with planning, and there we found one I think 1 or 2 houses that have precedence. Side yard.
Yeah, there's precedent, for the porches were 2nd stories up to side yards of 6.5 feet.
Okay. Does anyone wish to be heard on this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wexler, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we grant the.
Second. Proviso, please, so understand the.
Yes, with the proviso that the cellar entrance never be closed.
Yes.
We're gonna hold you personally responsible.
All right.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Next application number 434-21, Raymond Bigalora, permission to erect a 2nd-story addition, 7 feet by 28.4 feet irregular, leaving a front yard 26.72 feet instead of the required 40 feet. 1-story addition, 8 feet by 13.4 feet, leaving a side yard of 8 feet instead of required 14 feet. And 2nd-story addition, 2 feet by 6 feet, all having a floor area ratio of 27.8% instead of the permitted 25%. To leave the driveway and patio having a side yard of 2 feet instead of required 4 feet each. Residents say District West side of Center Bay Drive, 118, 80 feet south of Bayford Street, West Islip. Sarah, name and address, please, for the record.
Raymond Figueroa, 118 Center Bay, West Islip, New York.
And who's with us?
Appearing with Mr. Bigelow, Mr. Sweeney, my office address is 742 Veterans Memorial Highway, Suite 102, Upon New York. Good evening.
Evening.
Your last name was McSweeney?
No, just Sweeney.
Sweeney, sorry.
Good to see you, Mr. Lawson.
Yes.
Just for the record, in the file, there's a zoning board grant in 1977, leaving us setback of 26.76 instead of required 40, leaving minimum side yard of 3.5 instead of 14. Total size of 19.1 instead of 28. Just want to let the board know that.
Thank you. My client seeks this addition to add a dormer with 2 bedrooms to an existing upstairs space and a 1st floor addition. The end result of the addition that he's looking to do would just make the 3 bedrooms larger. It would remain a 3-bedroom house. In addition, if you look at the survey, the 1.5-story frame residence, what he'll be doing is squaring off that back corner, continuing on the line on the, I believe it's the south side, eliminating the wooden deck and just squaring off the corner of the back of the house.
Yep. And you already have side yard in the prior approval. Deidre, from planning, any objection?
No objections.
And the floor area ratio is 27.8, we see it for 30, although the code is 25. Driveway and patio side 2 instead of 4, we see that probably weekly. Chris.
Thank you.
Is anyone wishing to hear this application?
Say thank you.
They can still all go home.
They can take a rapid dive.
So I've experienced.
Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wexler, take it.
Make a motion that we grant the
Second.
Application granted.
Thank you. This application number 435-21, Joseph and Maria Gutierrez. Permission to erect a one-story addition 10 feet by 30 feet with a front yard of 30.5 feet instead of 40 feet, with a above-ground pool having a side yard of 9.3 feet instead of the required 14 feet, pool deck having a side yard of 1 foot instead of the required 6 feet, shed having a side yard of 0.8 feet instead of the required 2 feet, and not having 20 feet behind the front line of the dwelling, and to leave patio having side yards of 0.6 feet and 0.8 feet instead of the required 4 feet each. Residence 8 East District, east side of Hyman Avenue, number 658, 240 feet north of Abbott Place, Bay Shore, New York. Name and address for the record, please, sir.
Joseph Walker, 270 Ronkonkoma Avenue, Ronkonkoma, New York, 11779.
How are you tonight, sir?
I'm very well, yourself?
Great, thanks.
Good. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the items on the call specifically with respect to the pool deck, the shed, the patio, all of these items were present when my client purchased the home approximately 2 to 3 years ago. In that sense, these conditions were not self-inflicted either by accident or intentionally. In the past, this board has always had an opinion that it must balance the equities as to the detriment of the applicant having to remove such structures as opposed to the impact on the neighborhood. I know that it's a substantial request, but with respect to the pool, the deck around the pool, the shed, we would propose that when the life of the pool expectancy has expired, that the pool equipment, the deck, would be located to conform at that point, as well as when the shed has reached its life expectancy, to relocate that to conform at that point as well.
The pool deck is only 1.5 feet high, right? It's on the ground, pretty much?
That's the, I think, yes, that's.
According to the survey, it says.
It's 1.5, it may fluctuate a couple of inches either way.
Yeah, but it's not 4 feet in the air next to the pool.
But I know, I know the pool is not compliant, so, it's an above-ground pool, so when that reaches its life expectancy, we would.
Not quite clear, it's the 14 life of the pool, I hope we'll discuss that in a moment. The shed, not 20 feet right from my dwelling, you know when that shed was put there?
I can't answer that question, I don't know. I know it was there when my client purchased the house, which is 2 or 3 years ago. So it's there, that it's not created a problem with the neighbor. There's no conflict or difficulty with respect to that.
I understand this. I see a little picture.
It's a frame. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Peter, any objection from planning?
No objections.
Okay. The only issue I see is the shed not 20 feet long from my dwelling.
To you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, and that, yeah, the aerial, sir, on this block seems that they all hold a conforming front yard. So 40. What's your argument that you're gonna change?
You're talking about the proposed addition?
Yeah.
The argument there, the consideration for equity and balance there is that the house is a splanch, so it's basically a front to back split. They want to expand the kitchen and the dining area because it's a young family, it's a growing family. And again, we realize that it's, it's a 25% relaxation. However, cost-wise, to put it in the back of the house, to flip the kitchen and the dining room to the back of the house would be lower, would be, tremendously more expensive to do that. So, due to the fact that we would still hold 30 feet, it wouldn't present a difficulty with respect to emergency vehicles coming by or access to the property or anything like that. I don't think that it would be a detriment to the property. Architecturally, it would be consistent as far as the roof style, siding and windows and so forth. But I know it's a.
Right, but there's no objection with it, so. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application?
That there is a case from 2010 with a front yard of 35 feet.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. McCoy, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application.
The last application for the evening is number 436-21, George Wilkinson. Permission to leave accessory building 15.8 feet by 16.3 feet, resulting in floor area ratio of 41.1% instead of the permitted 30%. Residence AAA district, east side of Sexton Walk, number 42, 309.15 feet south of Fire Island Lighthouse baseline, Robbins Rest. Name and address for the record.
George Wilkinson, the subject property, building Sexton Walk. Home address is 140 Greenwich, New York.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good, thank you.
You're just gonna have to speak into that microphone. We can't hear you up here. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Give permission to leave accessory building, raising the floor area ratio.
Correct.
41.1 instead of 30. Is there precedent in the area that you know of for?
Not that I'm aware. What I do know, I bought the house in fall of 2011, quoted Greg and Sandy, and I rebuilt post Sandy. Did so pursuant to an approved set of plans. The main building has been approved. The accessory building, I think, is what we're talking about tonight. On the plans, it was 15 feet 5 inches by 16 feet, and it appears as though that the final construction turned out to be 15 feet 8 inches by 16 feet 3 inches.
Okay.
So,
Was the rebuild much larger than the existing? I'm wondering what's driving the FAR.
the rebuild was, yes, it was.
Okay, that's what's driving it.
Yes, it was.
Any objections from planning, Peter?
Mostly there's precedent around at most 40%, there's a 38.7 and 39%. Is there any way to get down to 40%?
It appears to be built already. Is the FAR getting put over the line from the decking, the walkways and decking?
Is that a question for me?
What was that?
Is the FAR being pushed up because of the decking?
For the precedent?
Yeah.
No, those are more recent. The ones that are way above that I couldn't break down and separate the decking, there was ones at 46, 55.1, but I couldn't figure out. There was no breakdown to.
So 41 is not horrible. 41 is a horrible, 46, 51.
But those are the ones I'm not sure.
What drives it?
Right. The more recent ones are 40%, 38.7, and 30.
What is the accessory building? What is it, storage?
Storage, I haven't really determined the use for it yet.
I mean, listen, we have precedent at 40. We like nice, round, positive vintages. To go to 41.1 is just pushing it, because that's going to be 42.4, then 44.6, before we know it. Yeah, but they're different calculations.
We don't know that.
I don't know.
So, well, then we should know it. And we should reserve and figure it out. Or, if you bring it down to 40%, your life will be easy.
Can I just ask a question? I'm a layman. I don't know really anything about anything.
You must know something.
My understanding is we're talking about a building that was approved at 15.5 by 16. Is that correct?
But wait a while, that's the accessory building.
Correct.
But that, you rebuilt and built larger, that's why you're here.
So maybe we'll piece it together. So you came before us, Lark Schlabel represented you in 2014 to reconstruct the house, right?
Correct.
So we have the decision here, and the board's held you to 36.9%, but it's confusing because the accessory building that you're describing, 15.5 by 16, is shown on the plan that you submitted.
Correct.
Did you offer to take it away and that lowered an FAR, or?
No, what happened was, it was built, a survey was submitted for approval, and at that point, we realized that it was 15.8 by 16.3, 3 inches by 3 inches over what was approved.
No, but wait, what we don't understand is you came, can I see the prior zoning board decision, please?
That's not gonna take it from 36.9.
Yeah.
That's why I don't understand the math.
Well, wait, the math is simple. You were granted a floor ratio by this board of 36.9. Okay? And whatever you did, it's now 41%.
I don't
I
follow
have
the
a
math.
feeling that if we did the math, the original proposal was going to take down that accessory building. And I bet when you knock that out, it brings you down to 36.9.
No, the original proposal was never seeking to take down an accessory.
Well, then how did it go from 39?
It's really something-
The calculations on the original house are smaller than the calculations on this house. So it was, yeah.
Oh, well, you built beyond that up.
No, I don't think so. Now, we gotta see
Ms.
it.
Pissarro has.
Can I offer a suggestion?
He was not.
No, wait, you don't time out us, okay? Don't do that.
I think I've got it. I think I have it. So on Fire Island, accessory structures below a certain dimension don't count towards gross floor area.
Correct.
And that number is something around
It's
200.
It's 250, so if you.
Let her, sir,
Yeah.
she's helping you. She's helping you. Don't.
No, I didn't
don't-
have a question mark at the end. No.
Let her talk.
So
Don't you get it?
I'm getting 15.5 by 16 as 248, so you're
Correct.
perilously close to that number. Are you telling us that you came out just over the 250?
Correct, so my understanding was the 15.5 by 16 was under the 250, which was 246 and change. And the as-built was 15.8 by 16.3, which is 254. So that's the problem. And you're to request relief for the 3-inch by 3-inch delta on the accessory building. The CO for the main property has already been granted. I'm seeking a variance on the 3-inch by 3-inch overage on the accessory building, for which I have no control over right now.
Is there any pressing need? I mean, do we have time to reserve decision? I'll get all the records and.
I'm happy to do whatever you guys.
Property's not for
I
sale.
respect the process. This is.
You're not selling the property in some sort of timeframe.
No, sir.
So why don't we do that?
Yeah.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? No one upset, name and address for the record, please.
My name is Stephen Hendrickson. I am George's direct neighbor, 27 Sexton Walk, so I own the house directly to the south of George. Just to give you guys some perspective on this particular area, it's a little different. Fire Island itself is different for all of us that know. The county had built there after the dune reclamation. They built in front of the 5 homes, George's house, my house directly to the south, and then the next house, a AADA ramp, right? So it's, I don't know, it's probably about 10 feet wide by about 5 feet high. Leaving our houses almost like Swiss Family Robinson. You can't get, all the houses are lifted to the height of the ramp. And so all the, to your point, all of the buildings that need to be attached to those homes are really up in the air, right? So, you really don't have much control over Mother Nature there. So as his direct neighbor, I'll tell you that, I feel like that's an ancillary building that George uses for storage. And I just want to say, as the neighbor next door, it's a lovely home, and it's a lovely storage facility for him. And I'm very supportive of George, and really think I'm going to have to take it down. So, just as a neighbor, and taxpayer, I want to say, I hope you guys will help George to do whatever he needs to do. Okay? Yep, thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Is anyone, what are the further questions? Mr. Wexler, take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we reserve decision.
Second.
All in favor? We have 62 days by law, we're gonna get them as quick as possible to you. We're just gonna discuss it, all the
Is
information.
there anything you need from me?
No.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Yeah, take care.
We got a lot. We got a lot. Everybody vacation.
Can we go?
No, we cannot.
Giving us the readings, so are we gonna? Yes.
So you know that.